Welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Tim Redmond from Redmond Growth Consulting. You can find them at redmondgrowth.com. Redmond Growth Consulting is an organization designed to help you grow your profits, grow your business, and grow your life through Tim's innovating coaching process. We are going to hear all about how you can experience this process to develop your marketing, lead generation, closure rates, cash flow, leadership, decision-making, and team building skills, everything but the kitchen sink, and maybe even that including. So Tim, glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, Robert, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to talking to your tribe here.
Cool. And I'm looking forward to making myself seem so smart for having found you and bringing you on here. And so, tell me what, there we go. Tell me what you have going on and tell me what has you excited, pumped up the last 6 or 12 months.
Yeah, we have been, our company is really growing. It's exploding. It's another way of saying it. We go after, we're a business growth company, and we help service companies, and two specialty areas is our contractors, builders, plumbers, electricians, all kinds of construction of any kind. And then also specialty docs and lawyers and accountants, CPAs. So anybody that's in some kind of a service business, we help them ramp up. And I just talked to one of the guys that's been with us for 2 years and 4 months, because I just looked it up. And he's a plumber in Denver, and he came on board with us at 100,000. Now he's at 500,000 a month. He's got almost $1.5 million in the bank. He never thought this was possible. And when I met him, he was working about 90 hours a week. Honest to God, he's down to 45 hours a week. I'm going to get him down to where he only has to work 5 hours a week, and any other time that's up to him. So anyways, I get up early, excited to hear stories like that and help make stories like that. So.
And that seems like an exciting place to be because, as you know, Tim, there are so many, like you said, specialty doctors, lawyers, or contractors who are just struggling, getting by. They're not really excited. They're just kind of earning a living. And I imagine that there's that small percentage, that select few who is out there who is ready to stop struggling, right? To blow up their town, explode, as we use the term. Yeah. Right? They're ready to just explode and get the word out, kind of streamline things, figure out a system, figure out employees, scale back their own time. And so, but all that seems like a tall order, right? All that seems just like so overwhelming. If someone is at that 90-hour per week kind of phase, and they say, well, I don't know if I can expand. I don't know if I have the money. I don't know if I have the time. What would you say to even begin to solve this problem? Because it seems like a huge problem to solve. And if only we could break through, we could have some amazing results.
Yeah, it's breaking down each of the systems in their business, Robert. All of us are in some kind of business, right? And we have two kinds of clients: those that are doing really well. This business seems to be serving them, but they're more of a slave to it, either by the number of hours or how uptight they are, or losing people, or whatever it is. They feel like they're a slave to it, even though they're making good money. And then those that are struggling and really slave to it. So a big thing that we do is we help people get more leads a lot cheaper, and we help them close those leads. We help them make sure that what they do it profitably. I mean, we had one guy he had like 2003 pricing, and we worked on him 3 weeks ago, and adjusted his pricing. He says, I'm going to lose all my clients. And so just try it for a week. And if it doesn't work, if you lose anybody, just go back to that, fire us, get rid of us. And he came back. He says, I can't believe those suckers. I didn't get one complaint. Just people, other than just people are going to complain about the pricing on really that much, but they all paid. It's like Phil Graham, or Paul Graham, the Y Combinator, Silicon Valley. He said the market price is the price people are willing to pay when they're complaining. They still pay, right? So it's that. We have another guy that he was profitable with what he was doing, but if he didn't show up, if he didn't show up, nothing was going to get going. And so we just helped him build a team below him and holding them accountable. They were like 2 months behind. They remodel apartments. They within a couple months of me showing our management system to him, he's now like he's dozens of units ahead of schedule. I forget. I just talked to him earlier today, but he's actually into buying his own apartment complex now because he's got the system down to remodel these things and get them rented out. And it's really fun to see people convert their business into something that serves them. So I love it. I love it. So,
and that seems to be that's a great place to be to get out of that scarcity mode and get more into abundance. And so you're mentioning some of these concepts of, well, get your lead generation dialed in. That way you know where customers are coming from and you're kind of seeking them out instead of relying on luck for them coming to you. And then that leads to kind of knowing your numbers a little bit better. And then that leads to being able to increase your prices because, I mean, even the dollar store is no longer a dollar, right? There's inflation and the cost of living changes and all that. So we all need to be increasing our prices. And then so you've got better leads, you know where they're coming from, you get better pricing, and now you're not kind of depending on the handful of clients, right? You have more people that you can kind of pick and choose. And even if the worst case happens, even if there's that fear of what if I raise my prices and some people quit, you have new people and you're not just kind of beholden to one or two like big clients. You kind of have more options. And it seems like then that leads to being able to figure out your system, your process, your employees. And then that leads to kind of getting ahead on the schedule and on the time. And so now you're no longer playing catch up as far as kind of the roadmap you've laid out for us.
Yeah. And we find even when people raise their prices, we'll repackage their offering. We'll write out specific word for word scripts for them that we practice with them, that they can train any human, even if they're not fully engaged. And their closure rate goes up pretty dramatically. And even really well-run sales organizations or the sales aspect of their business, they may have a real high closure rate, but we usually increase that closure rate at least by 20%. So if they're closing, 6 out of 10, we get them to 8 out of 10. If they're closing 3 out of 10, we'll get them up to at least 5 or 6 out of 10. So it's really knowing that there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. And Robert, what I see so many business owners do is it's like they lose their intentionality. It's like, we're created to create, and we just go in there kind of checked out, and we're more victimized by what's going on rather than acting upon it to really make your world operate and behave the way you want it to. And it's a give and take, but that's why I pay for coaching in my own life. I've always got at least 1 or 2 coaching organizations looking at us and, challenging us in the process. And so none of us are as smart as all of us, but it's really fun to see where we had one plumber that was making about $3,000 a month. He's now making between $30,000 and $35,000 a month in profit, barely enough to get by. And as a matter of fact, his first payment towards us, he used, we call it a fake credit card, but it was a limited credit card that we could, just very limited, just a few $100s on it, because he just didn't trust us. And we laugh about it now. He's a good Christian guy. He cusses like a sailor, so that doesn't bother us. But he's just living in a whole nother realm. It's like the one guy had an electrician up in Overland Park, Kansas. He sent me a text. He says, "I'm now starting to dream." again. I've lost that. He had $1.5 million business, and he wasn't making any profit. He thought he was making 8-10%. I looked at the P&L, and we help companies even, redesign their P&Ls and help them with getting their bookkeeping and accounting right. And he was at 0%. Now he's going to hit $5 million this year. And he's going to hit between 15 to 20%. He said 15. So our last coaching call, we actually talked about ways of getting to that extra 5%, where our goal when we first started with him about 3.5 years ago, is just where he makes $1 million a year in his business. And so he's really close to that. It's really, really a lot of fun. What do you think? What do you think the folks watching this, what questions do you think they have, or squeeze me for something here, or punch me or throw something at me, Robert?
Okay, well, yeah. So just before I have a question for you, but first let me recap a little bit about what you said here. What comes to mind as far as some of these success stories you're mentioning is that to make this big beast of a problem easier to tackle, you're saying there's all these little categories where we could improve this 10%, improve this 20%, right? Improve the sales process this little bit, increase the price, increase the customer experience, and all those little things added up. They're probably all little pieces of the business that have been neglected for all these years. And now you go and have someone like you, who's a coach who looks at things from fresh eyes, who knows how things can be done right. And it seems like that sort of the reason the problem even happens is because we haven't looked at things from fresh eyes in its own little box. Like you imagine, say you're in a 9 to 5 and you've been there 20 years and you paid it because you slowly just let things get worse, versus you're making me think about, remember being a kid and going to school and you'd end 6th grade and you'd take a test, you'd take a final and it would be done. And you start 7th grade and you get back to school clothes and you have a new backpack, new binder. It seems like there's that need to refresh, look at things from fresh eyes, have a new unit of time, have a new goal. So that way we're not just stuck in this well, things are done this way because they were done that way yesterday. And yesterday it was because the day before that. So we get out of that kind of forever chain into fresh start. And we have kind of this these finite blocks of time.
Yeah. That's so true. Very, very good.
So that's kind of what's going through my imagination as you're explaining this. And so what that leads me to is there's all these, we have a limited amount of time, you and me talking. And so there's all these things that could be done, should be done. But do you see low-hanging fruit, number one problem, something that all your clients, when they're new to you, it needs fixing? So many people make this mistake. It would be so much simpler and easier if they just fix this one thing. Anything come to mind as far as a universal problem?
Yeah. There's 2 or 3 things here, especially if they're a local service company, whatever it is. Building the brand, I really call the first aspect of building your brand is building your reputation management. And so a lot of your listeners have a number of customers. And if you ask them, well, when's the last time you called them or emailed them or text them? Well, I don't do that. I had one guy in Georgia and I said, well, how many folks do you have in your database? So, I don't know, it was over 10,000, maybe 11,000. Hey, Marge, let's look at that. It was 11,000 and change is, some gal in the background, heard a yell across. I said, well, when's the last time that you communicated to any of them? He says, that thought never even crossed my mind. So there's 2 things you do with that. One is you stay in touch with them. With a 10,000 or 1,000 or even 150 customers, that 10,000, the guy was easily giving away $800 to $1 million a year of just, they're thinking that people will come back to them. Well, most people are disorganized. You just need to stay in touch with them. So that's the first thing, is stay in touch with your customers. Second thing is get them to weigh in on their opinion of you and your service through a Google review would be what we do. I mean, when you go out to our Google business listing, we got over 400 Google reviews. And these are all, you can see they're doctors and they're plumbers and home builders and all that kind of stuff. So most of your people that are owning businesses have already earned a good reputation, but it's not public, right? And so it's taking the time. We have a whole process. We do 99% of the work for the clients, but you guys can start on this right now. Just right as they're listening to this, they can send out a text or an email to their friends and says, get off your blessed assurance and give me a Google review. Tell me what you tell your friends. And sometimes just by just asking, you get, and so, I think just their current customers, usually there's a lot of wealth untapped in there. And every time you serve people, it's not like you're begging for business. Every time you serve them, you're serving them, you're helping them, So people are like, well, I don't want to be begging people for work. Well, what do? Is what you do, is it a pain in the rear? Are you irritating people? Are you helping them? If you have a service company, the more you serve, the more you make, and hopefully the happier people are. That's creating wealth.
You're so right. And you're making me think that I just had a new garage door put in downstairs and he didn't ask me for a review. And if he called me, I think it's been like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. If he called me today and said, can you go to Google, search me in Google and go on that little sidebar and leave me a review, I would do it. But I have not been asked to do it. I'm not going to bother like searching him, finding him. I don't know if he would even notice, but it would be so simple for him to do, just to ask me to leave him a review. And yeah, you're making me think of how many people I bought from over the years, or I know I'm still on a list somewhere, but they're just not keeping in touch, even like once or twice a year, even just the very bare minimum. They're not even telling me what's happening as far as their latest video, YouTube, Facebook post, podcast, anything like that. And it would take any of these businesses 5 or 10 minutes, type a couple of sentences, click the email blast button. And then you're even making me think for myself, Tim, of like, when I log into my CRM, I kind of see like my most recent contacts and I have phone numbers for all of them. I feel like an idiot for not picking up the phone and just calling even just a handful of phone numbers and seeing how I feel about it. These are all easy things, all maybe the common sense things, but they're such common sense that we, being so close to our business, are not even noticing these things, or we're just forgetting that these simple tasks could easily be done to get us on maybe like an upward trajectory, get our business to what it should be. And like kind of the analogy that's going through my head here, Tim, is it's like, when's the last time you took your wife on a date, right? If your marriage is in the toilet, well, go on a date. Like think about the things you did early on with your marriage or with your customers, and just do those things so that way it's fresh and it's like the good old really days, good. Right?
Yeah. And so I love that, Robert. That's really good point.
Well, cool. And you make some good points. So in a moment here, I want to make sure that we talk about your business, your company, your website. But before we get to kind of that last section, is there anything that you want to fit in here? Is there anything that you feel like we left out before we get to the home stretch of our conversation?
Well, it's like, your business doesn't require near as much work as you think it is if you have systems and you create a cadence in your business. Like with Google reviews, you can have this automated. You can have, like we're a coaching company that does the marketing for. We do it with you and a do it for you kind of a coaching service, not just here, follow these 18 steps. Well, most people don't have time to do that. So, but when you set up systems in your business and you touch every aspect of your business daily or weekly, and you have a structured cadence to that, it actually reduces time. I was talking in a church meeting, and I do what they call marketplace ministry. And it's training from kind of a faith-based point of view. And a guy came up to me and said, "Hey, I've got a $5 million business. I'm making $800,000 a year. I don't want to grow my company, but I want to use you as my coach." And I said, "Well, thanks, but I don't know if I want to coach a business if you don't want to grow. Why don't you want to grow?" He said, "I don't want to work any more hours." I said, "Well, let's do this here. Let's move from scarcity, either this or that. and let's move to abundance, this and that, both. And so let's design the systems and the cadence in your business. And about 2 years later, I did a 2-day event with them, just an annual event with them. And they'd gone from 5 million to just under 9 million. And their net income, just because we're fine tuning, like you said, putting systems in all over, he's now up to like 24%, $2.2 million. And he was gone most of the time. And I asked him, gosh, you went from 16% to 24% net income. And how many hours are you working? He says, I'm working 20 hours a week. Well, I said, but Doug, how many hours do you have to? He said, I only have to work 5 hours a week. And, but I'm guilty. So I'm working 20 hours a week. But so he's reduced the amount of demand that his business has on him. And yet the business is giving him a lot more reward. So it's just getting those systems down and getting some help from somebody that's done this 1,000 times, just to help set up these systems where the business works for you instead of you working for it.
That's where we all need to be. And I love the advice you gave there of setting aside, having like this cadence, having these habits, and saying, on Friday morning, let's say I want to write a lead generation book for my business. Friday morning, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'll have that block of time just to make sure that it's a thing that I get to. It's a thing that I nurture. It's a thing I never let fall by the wayside. And it doesn't feel like setting aside days or weeks out of your life. You just find the time to contact the customers, to work on the book, to refine the systems, to get the business ready for sale, whatever it is. Set aside those blocks of time regularly, so that way you make it a priority, and that way it doesn't feel like you're subtracting other parts in order to get this important thing done. So, I mean, this is all great information, business information, time management information. And so if someone is watching or listening our show here, Tim, and they say, man, Tim has accomplished so much. He's such a smart guy. All these things are making sense. I want to take the next step. I want to go to his site. I want to find out more about what he offers. What do you offer, and where do we go now that we're at this point of the conversation?
Robert, if they will link to your show, meaning they send me an email or they go onto the website, redmondgrowth.com, or my email is tim@redmondgrowth, or call us at our number listed there, or they can look up Redmond Growth Coaching or Consulting. I have a growth plan that I actually walk people through an analysis of their business, strengths and weaknesses, their market, their goals that they have up to 3 years. And then based on what they say, we actually design a program, and we give them at least 8 concrete steps. Sometimes there's 14 concrete steps. Every plan is different, but it's a growth plan that we actually give them a step-by-step concrete actions to take to get to their 3-year goal. So I normally charge $2,500 for that, because I mean, we guarantee it'll add $100,000 of profit to the business, as long as it's not a brand new business. And but I would waive that $2,500 fee. So anybody that wants that growth plan, just say, hey, I know Robert Plank, or I'm part of this show. And then they email or call or whatever, and just say, hey, what about that growth plan? And then I'll say it's $5,000, but it's 50% off. No, I'm kidding. We'll offer it at no cost to your tribe, and we walk them through. There's no obligation to work with us. If they want to work with us, we do it for you with a lot of stuff that you don't have time to do. We do it with you on stuff that you want to learn how to do. And but I'd love to be able to give as many people a free growth plan process as they want, just asking for it.
Well, fantastic. Well, that is the action to take. If you've made it this far in the podcast interview, there's a reason, right? You need to get some of these problems solved. And I can relate to sometimes not even knowing where to begin to tackle a problem and needing help. So go email tim@redmondgrowth.com, or even better, go to redmondgrowth.com and tell Tim and his team that you know Robert Plank, that you were listening to the Marketer of the Day podcast, and you want that growth plan. You want those concrete steps. So that way you can stop struggling and you can actually have a change in your business, which means better systems, less stress, more income, better profits, less time from you. That's what we all want. But so many of us struggle needlessly for years, decades. Why are you making it so hard on yourself? Go to redmondgrowth.com. You have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain. Contact Tim and his team and take the next step. You'll be glad you did. Anything to say, Tim, as we sign off here?
Well, I tell you what, if the people listening, if they can start to dream, the root word for dream is to joy, is to enter into joy of just starting to dream, to say, what do they want their business to provide them? And then to ask themselves, what are they willing to give in exchange for that? And if they get clear with that of what they want, boy, I tell you what, there's just, your brain just gets unloosed, and there's some really cool things that'll happen. I'd love to talk to them as well too, and walk them through, or my team. And I wish them and you and all the folks here the best of 2022 as we head into it.